Let's go Atlanta Falcons at the Minnesota Vikings. Big rematch here. 98 NFC Championship.
Why would you bring that game up? Every Vikings fan, just stop listening right now.
Sorry.
You just brought back all kinds of PTSD.
I apologize. Vikings by 5.5 here, over under 46.5 from our friends over at FanDuel. The first place, 6-6 Falcons going up against the second place, 10-2 Minnesota Vikings.
Most accurate kicker of the time, hadn't missed a kick all season. Why would you bring that up?
Gary Anderson was losing it like Justin Tucker, just ahead of his time.
Only for that kick. Just not up until then.
He hadn't missed a kick all year?
Yeah, first kick he missed.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Back in 98.
Randy Moss, the most explosive player in the NFL. Let's take a knee going into halftime. No, why would we want to take a shot?
Jamal Anderson, Dirty Bird, Chris Chandler. They go get waxed in the Super Bowl against Denver. Oh, Minnesota versus Denver Super Bowl would have been.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this game, though.
Yeah. Way to ruin today.
Kirk Cousins revenge game.
Kirk Cousins revenge game. Kirk Cousins against the Flores defense, I think, will be fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, you made the point. Look, the idea that he's seen it in practice, it's overblown. Because, he goes sees the scout team in practice most of the time.
You hear that all the time, right? Like, people are like, oh, he saw this defense in
Every
practice
day. Every day.
He did not. You see the opposing defense during training camp. You're both installing, right? Both sides, getting your reps in. But once the season starts, like, you practice against the scout team who's imitating the team you're playing. So you don't actually, it's not like he had this full year of going up against Brian Flores and understanding the nuances. But Kirk, he's really analytical. He was like, I'm going to be in Atlanta next year, so I'm going to take all my notes. So he's got an idea of what the Flores defense is doing.
While his reps weren't happening, While
sure
the backups were getting their reps.
Processing.
Kirk's got an eye on Flores' side.
You've seen Kirk with the Mannings on the Manning cast too, and they're like, let's do fun stuff. And he's like, how do you guys handle,
Yeah.
What do you check to against zero when they're showing zero? Like, they're like, dude, stop talking football right now.
He doesn't.
So he was probably picking Flores' brain last year.
Yeah, he's not good at extracurricular fun. It's like, no, I need. This is an opportunity to learn. I need to learn because
Relatable.
I'm Kirk Cousins. I'm not,
Spend
physically
all your time
gifted.
advancing your career.
It's fascinating because on the one hand, he is, I genuinely think you watch that quarterback documentary, the Netflix thing. There might not be a quarterback that has deliberately squeezed as much out of their talent that they have than Kirk Cousins throughout his career. Like, that guy, literally no stone is left unturned, with the weird exception of taking Tuesdays off, which he's decided is just a beneficial thing for him. But that's a little strange. But other than that,
mentally,
no, just totally. Like, he's just like, I don't work on Tuesdays. I think it was Tuesdays, maybe it was Mondays, whatever. He decided there's a day of the week he's just not doing anything on. He thinks that's a good thing give himself the break or whatever.
Need a break.
But it's slightly strange, this dichotomy of like, I will squeeze every last drop out of my talent except on Tuesday, where I'm just not going to do anything because I think that's probably good. That's a little strange. But anyway, other than that, he's laser focused on like, what can I get out of my talent? Because I'm not Patrick Mahomes. I'm not, as physically gifted as some of these other guys. I need to be as good as I can humanly be everywhere else. So the dude does put in the work. That's one element. If he struggles against Flores' defense, it's not going to be for lack of studying it.
Yeah.
It's going to be because Brian Flores' defense is a nightmare.
It's interesting because if you just looked at the Vikings stats, you would say it's constructed like a bend but don't break defense. They give up a lot of yards, but at the end of they'll force turnovers, and they've had some big games against good offenses. But obviously they do it in a completely different way. They don't bend but don't break. They attack like crazy. Is Cousins better equipped to handle the blitz? The Vikings will give up a lot of yards to outside receivers. Drake London had a big game last week, and I think he's still a key part of that offense. Like, how does Atlanta? They came out of their bye and had Cousins' worst game of the season. You don't often see that, right? Where everything looks way worse than before, to the point where, look, Cousins played well most of the season, but now people are asking for Michael Penix Jr. Like, what's going on here? But are you one more game away from actually thinking about that?
I don't know. I think it's a mistake to view this as a continuation of struggles early in the season. Like, it's not. he hasn't. The baseline has not been terrible all the way through the year, and then suddenly it's costing them games. He was really good for a stretch, and we were like, "Oh, look, it's all come good. They fixed it. They've worked out how to play with Cousins. Cousins has understood his own limitations, and suddenly everything is great." He had a terrible game last week, and I'm not for a minute saying that was not a problem. It was not terrible, and it wasn't the reason they lost the game. It was. All those things are true, but I don't think you can look at that and week one and draw a straight line and say they've just been wasting their time here with Cousins. Why are we not putting in Penix? Like, what's the delay? Because the middle stuff happened, and the middle stuff was different. So I think the problem is because Cousins is old, noodle-armed, and immobile now, right? All of those things, whether or not they're permanent fixtures of his game or just the current version coming off the Achilles injury, they are the current status quo. As long as those things are true, if he has a bad game from a decision-making standpoint, it looks a joke. Like, it looks atrocious. It looks utterly unworkable, and it looks like a disgrace of offense, right? If he has a good game from a decision-making standpoint, none of it matters because he's able to overcome that, and he puts the ball where it needs to be, and he lets his playmakers make plays, and all is good. So, Michael Penix is unquestionably a physically superior quarterback at this point. Is he a superior quarterback overall, though? I don't think there's any clear evidence that that's the case. He's almost certainly a superior physical quarterback or a superior quarterback to last week's Kirk Cousins.
Oh, yeah.
But that is not the Kirk Cousins we've had for the majority of this year. So, I mean, because this is the other string to the drafting Michael Penix as high as you do, right? And another reason why it's potentially a problematic move is at some point in the season, if Cousins does have a bad game or two consecutively, the calls to put in Michael Penix Jr. get very loud. So, that's part of this as well. I think it would be – I don't think Kirk Cousins has done enough to play his way to the bench. So I think if you are bowing to the noise to put in Michael Penix, I think that's kind of silly.
The relationship I think that could be involved in this game is Kevin O'Connell knowing how Kirk Cousins is wired, helping to rewire him a little bit, as we talked about in the other show, to become this, here's how you make fourth quarter comebacks, man. Here's how you increase your aggressiveness just a little bit in key situations. I wonder if it's more like KOC working with Brian Flores this week on how do we dictate the action to Kirk in this offense. I think that'll be interesting.
And just here's what Kirk doesn't do well. Do more of this.
Yeah, I mean, can you turn him into conservative Kirk? You know what I mean? Like, can you move him? Can you move the levers defensively to get what you want? Get him to check down. Get him to be more conservative in certain ways. I feel like KOC would know how to do that as much as anyone.
Yeah, and I think there's genuinely, I'm sure there are things that Cousins does not like seeing, right? Like things that defenses can do that he has always struggled with. And if anyone would know what those are, it would be Kevin O'Connell.
That's the fun cat and mouse game. I don't think O'Connell and Zach together with the Rams. I think there was a couple of years they were together. O'Connell was offensive coordinator. Zach was the QB coach. Zach was receiver coach one year too, wasn't he?
I think O'Connell was there right at the start of Zach being there when Zach was lower down in the pecking order, I think.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he'd gotten as far as
there's
QB coach.
There's some familiarity there as well. So I think that's going to be interesting. I also want to see, I mentioned the other day, like Bijan. I love Bijan. I feel like there's just a little bit more to him creating some explosive plays in the run game, but you're going up against a really good run defense with Minnesota. So that entire side of the ball is fascinating.
Just we both love on this show single game sample sizes of things that probably don't matter.
Oh yeah, love this.
Kirk Cousins revenge game. Well, the previous Kirk Cousins revenge game was going up against Mike Zimmer and his defense in Dallas. And in that game, Kirk Cousins had 9.3 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a passer rating of 144.8. So maybe a motivated, angry, spiteful Kirk Cousins is actually the most potent Kirk Cousins.
He's lulling you to sleep on the QB show. That he's just, nice Kirk.
Yeah,
but he's
like you
very
think he's
vengeful.
just, Kirko with the goofiness and the chains and, trying to play it all up. But actually, deep inside, he's got the Tom Brady,
motivated by spite.
I'm going to kill you.
Spite's a powerful motivator, for sure. Other side of the ball, Sam Darnold with more 20-plus yard passes than any quarterback in the NFL this year.
Really?
And going up against an Atlanta defense that we pick on every week, they did play really well last week against the Chargers. And I think they did a nice job on the back end to allow the pass rush to get home. I'm always like I'm a Darnold believer this year. I also do know that I think he's got like the 2 or 3 turnover-worthy play games in him, maybe more than some other quarterbacks, in part because of the aggressiveness. So I think that ends up potentially being the difference in the game. Like if he hits Jesse Bates a couple times in the secondary, but loving the way Darnold's played these last couple weeks and the way this pass offense has looked with all of the weapons finally getting healthy on the inside.
And I know they found a pass rush last week, but generally speaking, this is a terrible pass rushing group, which should help Minnesota's offense not have to worry about that too much and be able to just actually deploy the explosive passing game that they can bring to the table.
All right, man.
This, by the way, I mean, interestingly, Atlanta's defense I don't think is particularly good across the board. They are quite good at avoiding explosive pass plays, though. Like that's the one area where they actually do have some strength. Jesse Bates being a legitimate ball hawk in the back end. Like they have some strength in that specific area. So Minnesota's strength, arguably the best explosive passing team in football, matches up actually quite well with Atlanta's defense.
I'll add some color to that. One of my favorite things to do when I'm looking at a defense and trying to get an idea of what they are, I look at the PFF pass rushing grade as a team and the coverage grade as a team. Usually they're going to work together. The fact that the Falcons have the number 5 coverage grade, despite this pass rush that we trash every week, that is second worst. That is difficult to do, meaning they are doing good stuff on the back end, avoiding the explosive plays, playing solid coverage, and like last week, the fact that they're not winning quickly for some of those sacks means they're winning on the back end, and so that's how they're executing this year with Raheem Morris.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's make a pick. Minnesota by 5.5 Sunday at 1.
Oh God, I'm going with the Vikings. That doesn't seem like something I should be doing.
You after the revenge game stat is messing with you. Give me the Falcons to stay within the 5.5 here. It'll be a good game.
Last week is living too long on my memory for the Falcons.
Harry's got the Vikings here. Cousins. When was the last time Cousins had back-to-back 4 interception games?
I don't know.
Probably not. He won't be that bad again this week. One more bad week though. Penix discussion.
It's Penix time.
It's happening.
It's already happening. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.